right, guys, if you still think you're in the real estate business, you are already behind. This game, it's not about ARVs, buyers list, or locking up contracts. It's about controlling attention. And the investors who win, they think like marketers, not landlords. And today, you're going to hear from the guy who invented virtual wholesaling, not taught it, actually invented it. Before all the software and before nationwide deals were cool, Chris Chico was quietly printing checks by running direct response ads and postcards that turned motivated sellers into inbound leads on autopilot. This is the episode, guys, pay attention. This is the episode that flips a script. No more chasing sellers, no more outsourcing your most valuable skill. It's time to control your lead flow, own your deal flow, and scale your income like a real business. Guys, welcome to the Closers Club, where real investors close real deals, build real businesses, and never beg for leads again. All right, so let's jump right in. Chris, thank you again so much for coming on. I know firsthand how much of a shift it is when you stop thinking like a real estate investor and start thinking like a marketer. Why do so many investors miss this? And can you kind of talk about exactly what that means and what happens when they finally understand that? What's that shift that happens in their business?
Yeah, I mean, most people coming into the real estate wholesaling business believe that they're in the real estate business.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're really in the marketing and sales business
Mhm.
because, I always say that you could be the most amazing real estate investor in the world, but if you don't have any leads, you're not going to make any money. But the opposite is true. You could just be a subpar investor, barely, a few things here or there, but you don't know
Right.
how to rehab a property and you don't know how to do, creative finance or anything like that. But
Mhm.
if you can generate lots of leads, then
Right.
you will stumble upon money, even if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So I think it's a bit of a mindset shift because it's very easy to get into the technical aspects of real estate. Now that doesn't mean that, hey, is it beneficial for somebody to dig into a few courses or seminars in order to lay the foundation?
Mhm.
Yes, but there's a point of diminishing return on that, where now you have to shift into the marketer mode and then figure out how you can generate leads,
Right.
because that's the only reason I've been able to stay in business for all this time, because I started wholesaling back in 2002, and it's transitioned from direct mail to online marketing and a variety of other things. So you
Yeah.
always have to think about the marketing, and once you fix that, everything else becomes easier in your business too as well.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get better at talking to sellers, then yeah, you could go through a course or seminar, but
Mhm.
nothing takes the place of you talking to a property owner and them having them chew your ear out, and then you learn from that. But
Yeah.
you need leads for that, right?
You
And so
do.
that's why I think lead generation is really one of the most critical parts of the business.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't have leads, you just do not have a business. Or, and I've seen this happen to people. You just fall in love with that one lead you've got, and you
Yeah,
just spend weeks just dreaming and trying to figure out a way to make it
you
to
bring
make the deal
leads in
happen.
and like a little pillow, and you're like, oh my god, we gotta like take care of this, because otherwise, if this the one doesn't
Yeah.
isn't a deal, then it's not gonna make sense.
And I feel like anytime you get into that situation where you become the motivated wholesaler, the
Yeah,
motivated investor, only bad things happen. Like
hundred
you
percent.
just make bad deals, and contract, just getting a contract is not always the answer. We want it to be the right kind of contract. So yeah, do not become desperate like that and put yourself in that situation.
100%, 100%. So
Yeah.
that's why I think learn wholesaling at a base, but
Mhm.
very quickly transition into learning how to market.
Right. So, Chris, when you started, and this is how I found you and bought your courses on, postcards and click to mail and all of that. So, what made you kind of make that shift to where you wanted those inbound leads instead of you always going out and, trying to attract people?
Well, I first started off as an REO broker,
Oh,
and
okay.
so I was an REO broker, and then transitioned to buying properties from REO brokers. I didn't like the fact that we had to kiss their butt, and
Yeah.
and all that other jazz. And
Hmm.
so I had this crazy idea back in 2002. I'm like, hey, I wonder if we could go and do marketing and get private sellers
Hmm.
to sell us their property. And then back then there wasn't any, not many people were doing direct mail. We
Hmm.
would send out, just to give you context, we would send out 1,000 postcards and we would get like 100 phone calls. Like it was
Yeah.
10% response rate because nobody was doing it. But then what happened is that, I had the list of property owners and I started to send out letters and postcards, and I just couldn't get, it's like one of those things, you send out a direct mail batch of 500 pieces. And then you're
Hmm.
wondering, did the mailman even deliver the mail?
Get there.
Because like
Yeah.
there was nobody. You're like, did I do something wrong? Right.
Yeah.
And then that kind of led me down the rabbit hole. And what
Mhm.
happened is that there was an agent at the time. His name was Craig Proctor, he's still around, but he was in Canada. He was one of the top agents in the country, and he was helping real estate agents with marketing. And
Mhm.
one time he mentioned this name, Dan Kennedy, and I was
Right.
that was his mentor. And then that's what led me down the rabbit hole of marketing. I bought a book called The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy, which is
Yeah.
around direct response marketing. You know, how to do marketing that gets someone to raise their hands and
Mhm.
want to do business with you. And I sat down with that book, and that's when I first created my first set of postcards.
Mhm.
And then, it was like magic. I always tell the story. I went from struggling, not making any money at the time. I had a condo that I owned, and the mortgage payment on the condo was $192 per month, and I was in foreclosure because I didn't have enough
Oh,
money to
no.
pay for it.
Yeah.
And then went from hardly making any money to 6 months later, in a single month, making over $110,000, which that was
Whoa.
20 years ago, so that was a long time ago. But that's how
Yeah.
quickly things. I want to impress upon everybody. That's how quickly things could change in your business if you
Mhm.
implement the right strategies. And one of the
Right.
core strategies is, of course, the marketing.
I think that's so important because people think, "Oh, I could never get there." But it's really just a very series of simple steps that if you follow them, like, this is a very simple business. You just have to follow the steps.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the steps are, obviously, you have to learn. What you have to learn what gets somebody to raise their hands. So that's
Mhm.
direct response marketing. And then you have to apply that to the right vehicle, right?
Mhm.
Because, at that time I applied it to direct mail. If you take the
Right.
skill set of marketing and right now you apply it to direct mail, the results are not going to be the same as it were back when I did it 20 years ago, right? Because
Right.
the the landscape has changed. And
Mhm.
so, part of that is a combining of those two things. Yeah, you got to have the marketing skills, but you got to apply it to the right channel so you can
Mhm.
get the right results.
Right. So let's talk about that. What are you seeing right now as the right channels? I know you're doing a couple of different things, but what's given the best results?
I've always been an inbound guy because I
Mhm.
started with postcards, just like,
Yeah.
when you initially got involved with me. So I am always of the fan of inbound. I hated outbound.
Yeah.
I've done, I try to do the most inefficient strategy that you could ever imagine for finding deals. It's
Mhm.
called door driving. Do you know what door driving is? Door
Is that
driving is where you have every intention of knocking on someone's doors
Oh,
in
yeah.
foreclosure, but you're too
Mhm.
chicken shit to do that. So you just drive by the door, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that one.
I love
So
it.
I never really liked the outbound, and I struggle
Mhm.
with cold calling and everything
Mhm.
else. And I
Yeah.
didn't. So for me, I always started with inbound, and so I started with direct mail, and I
Mhm.
rode that horse for many many years. And around 2016, I had this crazy idea that said, oh, I wonder if we could, find people to sell us their houses on Facebook using Facebook ads. And nobody at the
Right.
time was really doing it. And so I went down that rabbit hole of learning that platform, and I was the first guy to ever publish a course on Facebook ads for motivated sellers,
Mhm.
and that's going through its different transitions. Then we got into TikTok ads for motivated sellers, and then recently
Oh,
YouTube. So I'm always been a fan of inbound,
right.
right, for leads because of the everything about that prospect. They're predisposed to want to do business with you.
Right.
And then right now, our main channel is digital because that's where everybody is right now. And you know that.
Mhm.
I mean, everything is digital. And so for
Yeah.
me, that's the best opportunity. And there's a platform and a budget for everyone because if you had $10,000 a month to spend on ads, you can spend
Mhm.
that. But if you only had $20 a day to spend on ads, you could also
Yeah.
spend that as well and get leads. So to me,
Yeah.
that's where I'm really gung ho right now is on digital marketing.
Yeah, and I think again that's the magic in what you do is you've got that solution. I talk to PPC guys that run these big campaigns, and they're like, if you don't have $8,000 or $10,000 a month, we're not for you. We only want to run
Yeah.
these big giant campaigns, but we all have to start out someplace. And most investors, certainly me, I was half of broke when I started. I didn't even have enough money to be considered broke. But we do need something that's effective, and that's what I love that because you teach that and you've always approached it from that point of view. And how do we get people started in this business where they can build something that's really amazing?
Yeah, the thing is that there's a lot of misinformation out there because the narrative that you just described is one that's out there. Meaning
Mhm.
they'll tell investors, "Oh, you should do cold calling." Why? Because
Yeah.
unless you've got $10,000 or fifteen
Right.
thousand dollars to burn on PPC, you're never getting it anywhere. And we have clients. I was on a call yesterday on one of our coaching calls, and the clients he's generating contracts at $500 plus or minus a contract.
Whoa.
You know,
Whoa.
which again, everything, I would say that everything always has an asterisk. So what's
Yeah.
the asterisk to that? The asterisk is that, you know, this client, he knows how to talk to sellers. He's good on the phone. So
Mhm.
obviously, you know, everything has a different situations, right? So if you're really bad on the phone, if you sound like you got a sock in your mouth and etc., then you know you're going to need more leads, and it's going to,
Right.
you know, it's going to cause you to spend more
Mhm.
money per contract.
Right.
But you know, but I think that there's a narrative out there that says until you get your first deal, you should not even consider marketing and advertising. And I think that's flawed. Now, if you don't have
Yeah.
any money at all, like if you wanted to go to the grocery store and you have no money, no gas, and all you had is a
Mhm.
skateboard,
Yeah.
then that's all you got. But for
Right.
most people, if you had $500 a month to spend or $600 a month to spend on marketing, you can get started with that,
Sure.
you know? And that's where the, you know, the bigger strategy comes in, like Novations and Nationwide, because now
Right.
you're able to get the cost pretty down, and
Yeah.
then you're expanding the service area. And
Mhm.
then I would also say that, you know, if you're generating leads at $20 a lead, you know, over 30 days, that's 60, how much, that's 60 leads, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm bad at math. Yeah, 60 leads. I can do deals, but I'm horrible at making simple math calculations. Don't hold that against me. But you know, if you talk to 60 sellers, I guarantee you, day one you might sound horrible, but day
Mhm.
30, after talking to that many sellers, you might sound like you know, like you could put a deal together.
Exactly. And all of us, no matter where you start in the process, whether you're good or bad, whatever it is, there is going to be a certain number of calls that you're going to have before you get comfortable and you get over that fear. And it's very natural. I was very afraid to pick up the phone when I first started. But it's going to be fine. We're all here to help people. Nobody's going to nobody's going to yell
Right.
at you. But yeah, whether it's you need to do 10 calls or 100 calls, you have to have leads. You have
Yeah.
to have people to talk to. That's just
You're either going to
there's
pay for the
nothing else there.
you're going to pay for the leads with your time, or you're going to
Yeah,
pay with a wallet. So it's
right,
up to you how you want to pay.
right,
I prefer to pay a little bit with my wallet.
right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to compress time. I want to
Right.
get, same thing for you. We want to get you to the money just as fast as humanly possible.
Plus, also, I mean, with inbound marketing in general,
Mhm.
you're going to get a, you know, it's a different call. If you're
Yeah.
calling a cold call, then it's like, how are you? How'd you get my number? So
Mhm.
already, you're like, there's a lot of things you have to overcome in that
Right.
conversation just to get to the property details. Versus if
Yeah.
it's an inbound lead, it's just,
Mhm.
hey, this is Chris, a national property buyer. You reached out to me about the property. If you have a
Right.
few minutes, I'd love to have a conversation with you, and then that's it. Off to the races you go.
Right. Yeah, as opposed to catching them at their kid's soccer game,
Right.
and trying to talk to them about, so tell me about the roof again. You just have them at a distracted point. And one thing that I've seen too is the nurture time that it takes to take a cold call all the way to a contract. It could be 120 days.
Yeah.
Whereas with an
100%.
inbound lead where somebody is saying, Chris, I want to talk to you. Can you solve my problem? Right. That could be
100%.
30 to 40 days, right? It just happens much, much
Yeah,
quicker.
very quickly, very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah, and so
Nice.
you know, piggybacking on that, you know, I'm always in favor of an investor learning how to run ads and
Right.
learning how to do the marketing, because at the end of the day, you know, if you want to have an agency eventually run it, if you
Mhm.
have some competency in the marketing, then
Mhm.
you can know if somebody is giving you a bunch of BS or crap,
Mhm.
and if they know
Right.
what they're doing or not.
Right. No, I 100%. I agree. I think you should probably run your own ads, especially in the
Yeah,
beginning. Yeah, get it. Just like, your first house, you should go paint the walls yourself, or you should change your own water heater so
right.
that you have a feel for what that's doing. Um, so I know obviously, because I've been a student of yours too, you guys, you help people get this going. Kind of talk a little bit about what you guys do in that, and how, like, what happens when somebody kind of
Yeah,
gets
our
involved
primary
with you.
strat yeah, our primary strategy, what you have to be bought into is the fact of doing deals all across the country. So
Yeah.
you're doing deals in areas that yeah, in towns that you
Mhm.
may not even know and have existed until the lead comes in, right? So
Yeah.
that's number one. Everything is done virtually, right? And
Mhm.
everything is under the umbrella of inbound marketing, right? So we're running campaigns across. It could be the entire country, it could be across several states, or many cities, but it's very much distributed. So,
Mhm.
we don't really work with clients that are saying, "Hey, I want leads and deals in this little county in Ohio,
Right.
because
Right.
that's where I'm going to do my rehabbing." And then the mechanism by which we transact is either a wholesale or novation, right? Which
Mhm.
obviously you're familiar with. And
Yes, we
say
are.
under that umbrella, then we help clients with that. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to implement that model, then we have different tiers that we help them with.
Wonderful.
If somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to get my hands dirty and I want to go in there and I want to set everything up, then we give them our checklist, our SOPs. We look over their shoulder, they set it up, and then now they save some money because now they don't have to pay anybody to run their campaigns or anything like that. We have some clients that come in and say, hey, could you set it up for us? And
That's
setting it up is like as if you bought a car. When you buy a car, the dealer never asks you to build it, but they give you an owner's manual and have a service department that if you have any issues, they'll help you with it. That's another option. And then we do have an option where people say, hey, we love for you to just set everything up and run our campaigns. But different than an agency, we're fully transparent, meaning that it's in your ad account. Everything belongs to you. You get to see what we're doing. We train you. And then eventually we would love for you to run your own campaigns because, you might be paying us, but it's in your best interest for you to run them. And recently we had a client who we spoke with that, and this is something that I don't agree with, where he was with an agency, they didn't perform well, and then he canceled the agreement. But guess what they did? They actually deleted all of the campaigns from their ad account. Yeah. I'm like, now these were crappy campaigns because he was paying $100 per lead nationwide. We don't want that.
That's so high.
Yeah, but still, you leave with a bad taste in your mouth. On top of the fact that he didn't get results, so I'm not a fan of that. So we're very transparent with our clients. We're like, hey, we tell the clients it's in your best interest if you ran your own ads instead of paying us, because instead of giving us the money, you give it to Facebook and they will bring you more leads, or Google, etc.
Yeah, and then you have control.
Then you have control.
I know we have a lot of, even some of our clients are newer, and there's a ton of, we have one of the biggest YouTube channels on the planet, but somebody who's getting started in real estate and they understand, like, hey, I need to have leads, right? I get that. But, Cris, I got like a couple $1,000, like maybe that's got to last a few months. How should they get started? What can they do and how can you help them?
Yeah, the best strategy on that would be is you're going to target wide. Nationwide, and you're either going to start off. My recommended platforms right now are either YouTube ads or Facebook.
Yeah,
both of those. YouTube, Facebook, you're going to have cost per lead of about $20. Sometimes as low as 15. YouTube ads, the cost per lead is going to be about $30 per lead. The campaigns are similar in nature. You would focus on one only because you don't want to take your money and distribute it among the two of them. And then, my recommendation is if somebody has a couple $1,000, work on one platform, learn and understand that one platform so you can extract as much as you can from that. And, we provide all the videos and the creatives and everything else and the whole structure. And then the next thing, which I'm sure you'll agree, is get better at talking to sellers. So get a script. Memorize that script like the back of your hand. If I wake you up in the middle of the night, shake you up, you'll be able to recite it. Right. Nice. And then get good at property analysis, right? So that way you can put deals on the contract that legitimately have a good chance of going through under the umbrella that you also are going to be doing either novations or wholesale. That's the recipe, and ignore everything else. Because if all you did was focus on one platform, focus on being great on the phone and analyzing deals, you're going to make money. Okay. And understanding that it is a numbers game, right? Because if I tell you, hey, some people ask me, how many, like our typical target would be a contract every 25-ish leads, right? That's one every 25 leads. And then if you're in the beginning stages, let's say you have a 50% fall through rate. So that means that then it's one. That means that now you're at 50 leads in order to get a closed contract.
Right.
If the cost per lead is $20, that's $1,000 that you spend for that deal. Right. And if our average assignment fee is $15K, let's say it's $10K, that's still a good ROI on the money. So the numbers play themselves well. But again, you don't know if it could be the 5th lead that comes in and it's amazing. It could be the 35th. It could be like luck of the draw. It could be the 60th lead, and then you give up too soon. So part of it is understanding that it is a numbers game and you have to be consistent with it. But it's never one thing that makes the difference. I always say it's always a combination of things that come together to make the difference. And it's all those things that I just mentioned.
Yeah, for us, our average assignment fee average fee for the last 90 days on novations is just over $34,000.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So, guys,
Yeah, the
obviously
number I
training.
gave you on 15 was just wholesale
Sure,
deals.
sure.
Yeah,
So, yeah, novations are much higher. I love that you're teaching both of those strategies because that's going to encompass
yeah,
90% of all of the opportunities that are out there.
correct.
So that you can help these sellers because that's our job as investors, right? Is to
Yeah.
come into the situation and really help. Chris, I love what you're doing. I am the least technical person ever. I can barely get this Zoom to work half the time. So I love that this can be a very plug and play model for somebody who knows that they want to get started. They understand that real estate is the path to just wealth in the United States. It's so easy. It's such a low barrier of entry if you have the right instruction and if you have the right person to follow. And that is 100% you. Where should people go? I know you like them to follow your YouTube channel.
Yeah, the best thing would be is for people to go to YouTube. You
Okay,
can search me on YouTube, get my channel, watch the
we're
videos
going to put it
there,
right here
and
for
then
you.
that way you can get a feel for, there's a lot more content on there, and you can
Mhm.
really understand what we do. And if you're interested in working with us and getting our help and assistance,
Yeah,
then there's always links in the description. We can reach out to us. We're very there's no high pressure tactics. We explain to you, hey, what the options are, and if it
yeah.
makes sense, we can work together. But I would say go to the YouTube first and learn and understand better in terms of what we do and how, because at the end of the day, you have to be bought into
Mhm.
the overall big picture, right? You're going to do
Yeah,
inbound leads nationwide, virtual, and if you say no, I want to do deals in my little town in Ohio. I always say Ohio. I've never been to Ohio,
yeah.
but that it may not be for you.
100%. Guys, there are a lot of people on the internet, a lot of people who claim to be the OG. I'm telling you, Chris has been around since I started, and I've been doing this for a ridiculous amount of time. He's the guy who's taught the guy who's taught the guy who's taught the guy who's taught the guy who's now laying on a Lambo pretending that he is some kind of an expert. So I'm telling you, when Chris says to do something, he's been doing this a long time, and he's so dialed in that this is 100% the way to go. So if you've got those kinds of budgets and you're looking to get some leads coming in, because you have to have leads to have a real business, go follow Chris and just do what he says. Just implement what he's doing because he's using it every single day, and it is working in his business. So I want to see you guys have that success too.